makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Liz Griggs. Liz is a successful business leader and CEO of Grantchester Group. She founded OneCall Medical, growing it into a top company that sold for $2.3 billion. Liz now focuses on investing in healthcare, energy, and technology companies, while also mentoring women to help them succeed in business. Good morning, Liz. Thank you so much for giving me that chance to have this conversation with you, and I look forward to learning more about Gronchester. Can you tell us a little bit about your early days and your career and how your experiences at Donaldson help shape how you lead and do business today?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. And it's been an exciting journey for me. And a lot of people ask me, well, how did you end up building companies and now running a private equity firm? And I said, my journey has been rather circuitous, and I never thought I'd be doing what I was doing. I actually, this is funny, I wanted to be in fashion. I thought that was going to be my career, and I was going to work in New York. And then 37 years ago when I got married, my husband said, you're going to be working really long hours. So walked down the street and asked the bank for a job. And that was the beginning of my career in business. I ended up working, I'll fast forward here, for Donaldson, Lufkin, Genred, or DLJ in the late 80s, early 90s. So I started in wealth management, but then ended up working in Boston and then New York City. And literally, DLJ at the time was on Wall Street, right there at 140 Broadway, across from the Twin Towers before they blew up. And so I was in, institutional capital markets and worked with large institutions. And at the time, I was the only woman in the Boston office with all that. And it was crazy. People ask me now when I speak, what was it like to be the only woman with all these men in the late 80s? And I said, actually, it was like having 50 brothers. They all were, they were great and really supported me. And when I was younger, and so it was a great learning experience to work in the capital markets and finance in New York and Boston.
But you said that you just decided to change pretty much. You wake up, just walk into a bank and ask for a job. But did you have any experience or anything like that for them to say, hey, we're going to give you that job?
It's a really good question. So one thing, I'm the oldest of four kids, and, I've always been the child. This is why I always say, well, I've been the CEO of actually 3 companies now. And people, always say to me, oh, what's it like? And I said, the hard thing is I've been the leader as the oldest child, and I now lead companies, and I never can say no. It's like that Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man. I say yes to everything. And I'm always the leader. I said, one day I'm going to wake up as a follower. But what I do, I just went in and I said, I want to work here. And out comes the guy that runs the whole bank division. And he looks at me, he said, I heard you want to work in here. And he said, come on back in my office. So that's how I got my first job. I did that with my second job. I walked into DLJ after I started Maryland National Bank. Then I walked into Donaldson, Lufkin, Genred. I said, who runs this office in Boston? They said, oh, this guy, Todd. And I said, well, can I see him? I said, he walks out. I said, I'd like to work for you. He said, what? You want to work here? So I said, yes, I have a lot of experience. And I said, I walked into his office. He said, you're hired. So I've never done this. But, and, I learned early on, because a lot when I mentor other CEOs, I went out and I had a desk and there was a phone. And I turned to one of the guys. I said, what do I do? And I said, I have a desk and a phone. He goes, you got to pick the phone up and you've got to start building your business. And I'm listening to all these guys trading. And I said, well, who's the first person I called? He goes, I don't know. He said, I've been doing this for a long time. He goes, so the first person I called was my husband. I go, what do I do? And he said, you got to make calls. So, I think everything in life, and I've learned in business and building companies, being an entrepreneur, working for firms, it's all about people, relationships, building a team, and not being afraid to ask for the sale. And it's, for me, that is what I feel like I've done my entire career.
Yeah, but what's make you decided from working for a company to say, hey, I'm going to start my own? Why did you make that choice?
That's another really good question. You know, I didn't think I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I like, well, I like something that's set. So here's what happened, and this kind of the journey. So my husband one day said, I see this kind of problem in healthcare where it costs a lot for healthcare. And I think that I'd like to run with this idea. What do you think? And I said, well, let's try it. I'll fund it. I'll be your first investor and I'll help you with the idea and, tell me what you want to do. And then let's do it. I don't have kids, young. I make good money. So let's go. And we worked together to form the first nationwide PPO in the late 80s, early 90s that cut costs in workers' comp. And the workers' comp is an area where people get injured and they need to get back to work.
Yes.
So we saw a fragmented industry that needed some help to reduce costs and manage the care there. So I funded the company and I worked 2 jobs. We founded in the basement of New Jersey, and I transferred from Boston to New York so I could work 2 jobs. So I took the train and the ferry into New York to work. And then in the evenings, I would work with him. And it was he and I and a couple employees in the basement in Madison, New Jersey. And we decided to name the company One Call Medical, because we got one call that came in. And I said, we have one call. And then we said, one call does it all. And that was, the company went from 0, and then I funded it. Then we had more investors come in, and it grew to about 5 million revenue. And then we looked at each other and I said, I've got to come over and run this full time. And I said, we either go big or go home. I'm going into New York and I'm getting capital. We're going to get some institutional capital, and we are going to make this a company that is not a small company anymore. And we went from 5 to 20 to 50 to 100 to 200 million. And we sold the company the first time, and we took our investors out of 13 times their money. And then the company went from 200 million, 500 million to $1 billion, and it sold for 2.3 billion and 140 million in earnings. And it was definitely a journey. And I say to CEOs now, the life of a CEO, a founder, and entrepreneur, it's 24/7.
Yes.
And we had many nights at the diner in New Jersey, pancakes and eggs for dinner at midnight. So, and it's been like that, and you've got to love what you do. You have to have a great team that works with you. And then you're off to the races, and great advisors. I had some really good advisors that I brought in.
Were you scared to take that chance? I mean, like you did. I mean, like you and your husband grew very well that business to sell it for $2.3 billion. But at the beginning was this kind of like taking your own money and putting into it. How did you feel about that? Did you feel scared? Did you feel like it's a mistake or anything like that? Any ups and downs?
And it was really scary. And, then there became a point where, my husband was like, okay, it's time for me to exit, because now it's a real company. I'm not good at this. I'm a researcher and I love coming up with ideas, but see you later. I said, fantastic. We're going to run with this. And I was really fortunate. it is scary as an entrepreneur, but and I say this to all CEOs now, build a great team around you. That old saying, if you put people around you that are smarter than you, and I always say you look really smart if you have smart people around you.
Yes.
And I have had a great team ever since. And they always say, just like there's no I in team. It is truly, I always say we'll get to the playoffs and we'll get to the finals if we're all working together. We all take our unique skill sets and pull them together, and we've got a winning team. And it is so key. And every single company, when you're building companies, but yes, it was scary. And it was just risky, but you have to believe, and you have to faith and know that this is if it doesn't work, don't be afraid to take the risk.
Yes. But also after I'm guessing after you sold that one, you started Gronchester, correct?
Yeah. Well, yeah, a little, almost, and and I love how you go through the journey here. And so sold the first company, and I said, you know what? We have one child, and I'm going to retire for a few years and really be a great mom.
Aww.
And I sat on some nonprofit boards. I was a room mom, actually, all the way from kindergarten until he went to college. But and I said I want to have no regrets. And we had so much fun together, and we've been buddies ever since. And he's now 27. But when he went into junior high, I said it's time for me to go back into retirement. Isn't me? I'm too young. It isn't for me yet. So and by the way, I don't think I'm ever going to retire because I love what I do now.
I don't think so either.
I'm just telling you. People say to me, "Oh my goodness, why do you work?" I said, because I love what I do, and now I get to help CEOs and I get to invest in companies, and I'll get to Grantchester in about 2 minutes here. I decided to start the second company, and I said, we need another company in managed care. My first company is the largest company, and we need the next generation. So it was the market crash when I started the next company, worked well. And everyone was, all the big firms in New York were closing down, and I'm in New York raising capital. We were one of the few companies to get funded. And I think why I did with my team is that we had been there, we had done it, and we had done it successfully, and investors had faith. And the other thing is, then they said, you have experience, you've been there, you've done it, we'll back you. And so here we were, off to the races, company number 2. And I had a couple of very large investors that backed me and a venture capital firm, and started building company number 2. And then I was approached by 2 senior advisors from Goldman Sachs, and they said, how would you like to buy companies instead of build companies? And right, so we've got the capital, and if we were to go find some smaller companies and you helped us scale this business, that'd be exciting for you. And so I thought about it overnight, and I thought, if I have capital and I can help CEOs build their companies, would I like to do that? Or at this stage in my career, build another company? And I talked about it with my best friend, my husband. He said, if I were you, I think it would be great to work with CEOs and help them if you have the capital, and build several, and take your experience and your mentorship and your leadership skills and operating skills and take them over to companies and own a piece of it instead of the private equity firms owning your company. And so I did that, and I formed Grantchester Group. And the goal was to bring in other CEOs that had built companies, run companies, started companies, and that we would find companies that we wanted to invest in with our investors and help scale these businesses and help the CEOs grow. And so that was the beginning of Grantchester Group 5 years ago. And I built a team of experienced leaders. We sourced really good companies that we'd like to help and CEOs we'd like to back. And we invest in companies. And that's what we do. And we have 2 specialties: healthcare, since that was my background. And we do healthcare services and technology related. And we got into clean energy and clean tech because of hospitals. So those are the 2 specialties we have. And I'll pause there because I'm kind of going on, and you may have another great question.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I will. You really pretty much telling me the things I was gonna ask you anyway. But under Grantchester, you have how many other branches you have under it?
Yeah, so Grantchester Group is the holding company. And then what we have underneath are several entities within Grantchester. One is Grantchester Energy Group, where we invest in energy programs and projects. And the main area for us in Grantchester Growth, which is what we can talk about and it's exciting, is Grantchester Growth. In Grantchester Growth, we not only invest in companies, we have built a technology platform for alumni of colleges where we, our specialty, and we focused on, we decided we wanted to make an impact. And we partnered and have built a program for HBCUs. And these are historically Black colleges and universities. And what we're doing is we're helping the companies within that the alumni start within these colleges. We help these alumni with capital and the needs to grow their companies. So we still do outside deals, but we also help the college alumni. And how this started is I sit on the board at MIT's Entrepreneur School. And I was asked to be on the board of advisors about 8 years ago. And what we do, the students come in at MIT, and we as a board vet the companies, and these are the future drop boxes. These kids they incubated their companies in the building. They come in and present to us, and we tell them what we think they need and what they should do, and they need capital and leadership. And then we provide those things for them. And what I learned in these board meetings is there's something interesting. And I turned to the chairman of the board and I said to Bill, we help these students, they leave, they go outside and get capital, they build great companies, and we never hear from them again.
Yeah.
And we've lost touch with all these alumni. I said, we need to do something here. And if they do give back to the school, it's a really small amount. I said, if we want to get great donors and engage these alumni, why don't we get them to give some stock? Because these entrepreneurs have they're stock rich, but cash poor. So not only can we help them and provide them with our experience and skills that we've learned and help them to grow their companies, but then they'll give back. If they give some stock, that'll be great. I'll be the first stock donor to MIT. And I set the program up. And I said to my partners, why don't we offer this to other schools and colleges where entrepreneurs have the ability to grant stock? And when they do, we help them as a firm grow their businesses. And then we ask them to give back to their colleges. So now the college is doing something for the alumni.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of something which we call Alum Biz. And we are building an entire platform of technology, kind of a LinkedIn for colleges, where all the stock grants go onto the platform. And then any company that we are funding and working with goes on the platform as well. The alumni.
I love it.
Very exciting.
I mean, like, do you just go to sleep and just think about all of these things and just come up with great ideas like that? Because it's everything you do is just amazing.
You know, it's been, Amelia, it's always been a journey. I think for us, it's just things come to us where we see that there's a real need. And I think for me, I was at the stage of my career where I wanted to help and make an impact and help others grow their businesses. So at Grantchester, we're a private equity firm. We invest in companies. We back good CEOs and we back good teams. And we invest in these companies to help the teams grow their businesses and make them valuable. And then our investors end up doing well because they know that we're going to help these companies scale and grow. So now not only do I have a private equity firm and we invest in companies, but we also work with HBCUs to help the alumni grow their businesses. And so we now have a lot of companies within these colleges and other companies coming to us and saying, can you help us build our companies? Can you provide capital to us? Can you help us build out our team? Can you help us scale these businesses? So we're all doing what we've always done for decades, and we love doing it. And now we get to invest and help.
So when it's come for Grantchester, when you're investing into companies, do you have any specific things you're looking for? Does it have to be a company in tech? Does it have to be in the healthcare industry? What are the requirements you are looking for?
Yes, that's another good question. So we like to stay in our industry specialties because we have a lot of connections and large network over the last. I was a CEO for 30 years, and then I started my private equity firm. So I have, worked with all the major corporations, Walmart, FedEx, Delta, and then the largest insurance carriers. And so, I think for us, back to your question of, working with what are the criteria, I would say that in private equity, you have to have earnings. Venture is no earnings and it could be a startup. In private equity, we invest in companies where, if I say the recipe works, they sold product, they're making money, and we come in and we're the next infusion of capital to help them really traject and scale their businesses. Now, we've had a couple of cases and scenarios lately where we've invested and it was earlier stage. And then we've made an acquisition and pulled it in. So, there's a lot of things we can do creatively. But we get a lot of companies that come to us, CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs that say, what do you think of my company? Is it something you'd invest in? And even if it's something that doesn't meet the criteria of earnings, been in business for at least a year, and some of the things that we look for, we'll mentor some of these founders and entrepreneurs and kind of help them navigate of where to go and what to do.
But in your company, do you see a lot of women coming asking for funding, or how does that how do you see that? What's the percentage you see in that?
Yes. It's so interesting. I think in energy and clean tech and all that, there are not a lot of women because a lot of it's, the founders are engineers. And one of the companies we bought was from Tesla. It's a great company. And they it was founded by engineers, and there's a plant in Korea, and we've got employees here, and there are no women. And so I love to find women-backed companies because in private equity, I will tell you this, there's still less than, the statistic is 7% of us women, 7, that run private equity firms. So when I go to a conference, I went to one recently, and I literally walked in the room in San Francisco, and I was the only woman. And so in private equity, it is still at the top, mainly male dominated. But honestly, it doesn't bother me, but we definitely need to get more women at the top in finance and private equity. As far as running companies, there are more women entrepreneurs. We don't see as many at the higher level where they're making money. But when I get one, I will tell you, Mahalia, I want to support them in any way I can. I feel like we're kindred spirits, So,
But why do you think that not so many women are going for funding or even joining that type of space?
It's really an interesting question. I ask myself that a lot. And I think that for me, I had a great support system and encouragement, a great partner.
Yeah.
When there were times where I wasn't sure I could make it. People say, when you have thousands of employees, what was it like? I said, when you have no employees or, one employee, you don't know if you're going to be able to make payroll. And then as you get larger, you have different things. Am I going to get, are the projections that we put out there, are we going to hit our projections? We're going to hit our earnings. There's all different challenges that you have in the life cycle of a company, from startup all the way to something that's larger. I think that, once you've done it, you feel like, okay, I know what to do, the recipe that works here. But, I think that I would encourage anyone. And here we have a son, he went to MIT, both undergraduate and graduate school, and he said, should I start my own company? I said, if you have an idea and you believe in it, people will back you to
Yes.
take the risk and do it. And if the worst thing happens is that it doesn't work, then you could go work for a large corporation. But believe in yourself and go do it.
Go do it. But you lead a team of successful CEOs, senior executives. What do you look for when choosing your team members? And how do you make sure everyone works well together and keep up with new ideas?
Yeah, it's building a team is really interesting because um I think that one of the things, there's two things. If I am investing in a company and looking at a CEO he was an entrepreneur, she was an entrepreneur, and then the company, they have to have a passion. They have to be really passionate, love what they do, embrace it, and want to work all the time. Because we as investors, I'm going to put my investor hat on. I know when I was building a company, it was my life. And I was passionate about what I did and I believed in what I was doing and I had a conviction. And then if you do, people will follow you. Not only money will follow you, but your team will follow you. You have to believe. Now, for building my team, I look for others that have the conviction, the passion as well. Because if they don't, we're not going to be marching forward together. And so I have, and it's interesting. People say, how many people do you feel like you really need to make a successful company on a team? I said, if I have two or three, I call them doers, that they are there and they will work and we're think we can make it successful. It is, you don't have to have 50. I learned that, a long time ago. They always see, this is really interesting. I'm always asked to be the head of everything. It's a capital campaign in high school. They said, Liz, would you lead the capital campaign for 10th grade, then 11th grade, then 12th grade? And I said, okay. And I said, I'm going to get more people than anyone to call, and we're going to get everyone to give. And I learned it wasn't having more people at my table to call, all the people and the parents to give, because soon I realized there were three of us that were making all the calls. So
Yep.
it's, what? It's finding those people that really, really want. And it's important in startup companies that you have to want to work. If you want to just have a job and go to work and then leave, that's not really the life of an entrepreneur or building a company. But you definitely you need chiefs and you need Indians. So you need both when you're building companies.
I can relate to that. And I think I remember we were a team of five, and I'm like, okay, it's time to grow. We need more staff members. And within a few months, 6 months, my staff went over 20. And I have to
Oh,
tell you,
wow.
that was the worst time of my life. And
Really?
I thought that if we have more staff members, that work will get done faster, right? Things will be more in order and the company will go faster. And I was completely wrong. And that was a lesson learned. It's that a smaller team is actually better. It's more effective and things get done a lot faster than you think. And that was the lesson learned. I remember crying over that because
Uh-huh.
my decision also, the company lost money because of my own decision that I thought that I need a bigger team. And yeah, I got a bigger team, but I got a bigger problem to fix. I need to fire them. So after a few months, I started to realize that a bigger team wasn't the right path to take. I just needed to find the key employees that will bring something to the table that can help the company grow. Not actually having a lot of people, but having a smaller team, but each one of them play a very big part. That's actually take the company from step 1 to 2 to 3, and we keep on growing. And that was my lesson. I guess I can relate to what you just said. And that was my biggest lesson learned when it's come to Warmel.
You know what? That's the classic thing. And you're a great example and testimonial to others because It's so true. That old saying is less is more. And yeah, and I'm, by the way, I'm the worst at letting people go. And they always say slow to hire, quick to fire, too. It's another saying. And I remember we had to do a Myers-Briggs test. One of my venture capitalists said, I want everyone in your executive team, including you, to take this test, the personality test, to see if you're the right people that we're going to back. Well, I thought, oh my goodness, this test takes like 60 seconds to do, and you answer 10 questions, and that determines my fate of this, whether I get back, right? Thankfully, mine came back, and this is what the quote is. And then I'll tell you about one of the guys I had to let go. Mine came back born to be a CEO. I'm like, oh, drats. That's all I need to hear. I mean, now, but that was good. But they also, I had to have my head of sales, my chief sales officer, do a Myers-Briggs test, my CFO, my chief information officer, and my chief technology officer. Interestingly enough, my chief sales officer's test came back. Everybody likes him. He has a lot of, but he cannot close a sale. I thought, there's no way. He knows everybody in the industry, so much experience. He's worked for three big companies. I'm bringing him on board anyway. I like him. He seems to be effective. Well, he could not close a sale. He knew everyone. And I said, look, just tee up a lot of meetings at the next conference, and we'll go in, and I'll help you close these. So he was afraid to ask for the sale. So I remember clearly we were not hitting our numbers, and I was trying to help him out. And one of my board members said, why are you doing all this? He's supposed to be the chief sales officer. You need to let him go. I said, you're kidding. And I called my office and I said, oh, I don't want to let you go. But I mean, it's like a sign on your chest, please fire me. Because, and I literally got teary-eyed. I mean, I get attached to the people that I mentor and that I believe in, but that was a scenario where you need to have the right person, and less is more. Yet someone who's effective, you don't then need 5 people underneath them to help them. That one person can do it.
Exactly. And I'm just like you. I get attached to people very fast too. And especially studying psychology, so I get to kind of learn people, and I know the right questions to ask to kind of get into your personal life and what's going on in your life. Get to know a little bit as a human, not just someone who works here. And sometimes that get me a little bit too attached because I know too much about you at this point. Yeah. And when it's time for me to fire, it's like, can somebody else do that for me? Because I can't. I'll start crying.
I know. I actually got teary-eyed, and then he cried. So we're both sitting. I said, we're like, girls in here crying. But he ended up doing really well. And of course, I said, anything that I can do. And we were just friends. It was like the easiest fire, because I think that you kind of know when you're performing or not performing. But I think the key is try to get really good people out of the gate, because having to let people go or having to go through that process just takes time. And then there's some people that you can mentor that may not fit the role. And I'll give you a quick example, and this is really helpful for other entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs. I had a guy that was in my call center, and my head of the call center came into my office, and Christine said, we have got to let him go. He is not good with people. He's supposed to answer the phone and help people, put them into our healthcare centers. And I said, before you do that, let me go out and talk to him and see what's going on. Sure. So I sat down in his little cubicle, and the calls are coming in. I hear everybody answering the phone. And I said, what's going on here, phone? He said, I don't really like what I do. No, because I'm not good with people. They asked me questions, and I said, well, what do you like to do? And he said, I really like computers and technology. And I said, okay, you see the department over there? That's the tech group. There's an extra cube over there. Go sit down. and let's talk in a couple of weeks and see what happens. That's what your passion is, and that's what you like, and you don't really want to deal with people. Technology might be the place for you. Tell me some of the things you're working on. And he said, well, I kind of self-educated myself at home, done courses at night, and I think I can do it. I've been talking to the guys in the department at lunch, and I'd like to try it. Oh my goodness. He became the rock star of the group. Day and night. I'd be there at 9 o'clock at night. There he is in this queue. So I walked over to him. I bought that drink, the rock star drink. I put it on his desk and I said, Poe, you're a rock star. You are. And, so you have to look at everyone, and if you lose touch with your employees, and that's why you have to go walk the floor, even when you have 5 employees, 100 employees, 200 employees, and you can't with 200 try to be in touch. But I said, sit in the cafeteria as a CEO. You learn a lot more a lot of times.
Yes.
You've got to be in the trenches. And I would have never known that. We would have lost a good employee had I not given time to do that. And so I guess that's back to saying, you got to sweat the little stuff. You got to sweat the details.
Yes. You got to go outside of your comfort zone to find out what others want in life.
Yeah, exactly.
So you care a lot about diversity and fairness in the workplace. What should the private equity industry do to improve in this area?
Oh boy, that's another great question. There's a lot. Now you're opening a huge box of what we can do for diversity. We private equity, I believe, is going to really you're going to see a paradigm shift. When I was at DLJ, some of the most senior people started private equity firms in the late 80s. Stephen Schwartzman started Blackstone. And we worked together at DLJ. I went on to be CEO of my first company. One of the very, very, very close friend of mine went to go be the CFO of Bridgewater under Ray Dalio. These are kind of big private equity guys that are out there now, very well known. And it was a male-dominated industry. And what's happened is that, and that's great because I've worked with a lot of them, but that generation hasn't left. They've built firms from the ground up, the biggest firms in New York, and then KKR, Blackstone, PPG, and they have now they've risen to the top. They're running these firms, and that generation is still there. Women were not. Yeah, when I was working for GLJ in Boston, I was the only woman on the floor. So there were most of the women in private equity now at a senior level are CFOs, head of HR, controllers, or assistants. Now we're trying to get more women, but it's going to take a little while. They're coming in as associates, analysts, maybe vice presidents, but you have four or five more layers to get to the top. So for me, I said, I'm not going to let that barrier to entry stop me. I'm going to still go in. I'm going to start a private equity firm. I'm going to invest. I'm going to bring diversity into this industry. And it's not easy.
No, it's not.
But, it's, you just have to, and Steve Schwartzman's book, and it's a good one. It's like what it takes. You've got to get out there and not be afraid to be the only one. And now working with HBCUs, a lot of these alumni that have built companies have not been back. They've had the challenge of raising capital. Doors have been shut. I mean, I say to the students at MIT, 80% of startups don't make it, but you can make it. You know the recipe, what needs to be done. But I think, we as women, women of color, women, just women in general, women of anything, we have to be given that chance because there's a lot of smart talent that's out there, and they don't know how to do it. They don't know that. They don't know how to take that idea, or they walk in a room and they're the only one, and they don't know if they're going to be given the chance. And everyone deserves a chance. So at this stage of my career, now that I'm in my 60s, I said, I want to make an impact. I want to take what I've been give in and help others be able to, because there's great ideas and there's a lot of people that could be successful if they're given the chance.
I agree with you. But what do you think that we can do as women? That's, for example, you, Liz, you have, wow, I don't know how to even say it. Your experience is like wild. It's like, it's big, it's huge. And you make it to the top, right? And what can women on the top do to help the one in the bottom, to let them know that it's okay. It's you're not alone. I might not be in that room with you, but we are there. We're just not there in person. So what can we do to support them, to let them know they can get there as well?
Yeah, I think the main thing is you have to, well, take the time once you've done it to help others. As a woman, you cannot, you can't just, you can only, as I say, once you're successful and you've done it, you've got to help. What's another company? What's more money? What help others and take that experience that you have been blessed to get. And now with that success, take the time and stop to help others grow their business.
Yes.
And so for me, being able to provide the capital to help, women or, others or minors that cannot, that have a tough time out there, with their journeys, with their passion. And so I could easily just keep building companies and not helping others. And I decided, that is not my role in life now. I want to go out saying I did something to help others. I think being a CEO, there's a lot you can do internally to help your team. I think for me now, backing CEOs and helping them build their teams. It's like the next thing, it's almost like being a player on, I watch a lot of basketball. My husband's passionate about basketball, so I've become passionate about basketball. And you learn so much from sports. And you can get on a team and be a player, and then you have to be a team player, and then you can be a star. But then there's also the coach, and the coach has to be a good coach. And so at this stage of my career, I've been on a team, then I was the coach, then I was another coach, and then I became the owner. And for me, it's helping these coaches with their help build out their teams and then providing them the resources to build these great teams.
Can you share some effective strategies women entrepreneurs seeking investment to scale their business? What are some effective strategies they can use for that?
Yeah, so I would say when you're building a company, if you want to stay small and you have your customer base or your client list, you can do really well. If you want just to provide consulting or you want to service a small market. If you want to go big like I did, you're going to need to bring in capital. And I always say, people say to me, oh, it was like to be a CEO. And I said, everything's about capital, capital, capital after you build a good team, because you need that to then scale the business to one level. Then you're going to raise more capital to build to the next level. Then you bring more capital to the next level. And then you start to have earnings. And then you want to, the companies we work with go public, you stay private. But then you may just want to run your company. And, at that level, it's really what you want to do. And so for me, I've been at all levels. I've been at small, medium, large, and they're all good in different ways.
So how can someone reach out to you in Gronchester?
Well, our website, and it's so interesting because people always say, how do we find out about funding and you and deals? How do we didn't know about you? It's all through word of mouth. It's through our network. People find out about us. They call us. They say, we have a great company. We'd love to talk to you. We have investors who say, how do we find out how to invest in your companies? And it's through, I don't do many interviews. This is one of few. People ask me to speak at conferences. people ask me to be a mentor, but it's really all through word of mouth. And so I love bringing in new investors into our deals. I love investing in new companies and backing new CEOs. I love mentoring women and minorities, and so that I can make an impact. And my team does the same thing as well. So, this is for me. I enjoy what I do. I love being a CEO, and now I love working with other CEOs. I love bringing in new capital that can invest in our CEOs, and our entrepreneurs that want to build great companies.
Before I let you go, I have one last question for you, Liz. Can someone just approach you to say, let's say, looking for funding? Can they just approach you for that, or what's the process for that? Do they need to go to your website, fill out the form, or how exactly that works?
Yeah, if someone wants to kind of reach out to us anonymously, or that we don't know through, all of our deals that come in and investors that come in and want to be part of Grantchester, they find out about us through what I call friends and family. It all just comes through the industry. But if someone listens to the interview or hears about us, they can go to our website, and there is an information where they can call and call into Grantchester. And most of all the calls that are vetted and their companies, I like to reach out to if I can and talk to them and find out what are they doing, what do they want to do. I love enjoying that, and I enjoy that, and I like being a mentor. And then we vet it, and if it's something that fits our criteria, then we can start to work with them and figure out what to do and how to navigate. And if it's something that doesn't, we'll steer them in the right direction. If it's something that's more venture capital, we've got venture people that we really know and trust and like that we can refer them to. So yes, they can call up, they can go to our website. That's probably the best way. And go on to Google. We have lots of articles. We post a lot of news about our deals that we're working on, what we're doing to be impactful in the industry.
Well, thank you so much, Liz, for giving me the chance to have this conversation with you, kind of learn the background behind it. I'm like, when I was reading about you, I'm like, she is awesome. But I know she's awesome. And when I talked to her, and I was right about that, actually, you are awesome. And thank you for what you are doing. And I think that you make it where you are right now. It's an example for other women, like you can do that too. It's hard. It's hard work. Like you said, you're going to have to eat pancake at midnight. That's probably dinner and breakfast, but that's okay, because when you get there, it's worth it. It's well worth it. And I also like the fact that you are taking your knowledge and pass it on, because a lot of women don't like to do that. They keep the knowledge with them. But in reality, really, when you die, what happened to that knowledge? You're supposed to pass it on to the next generation. I think that that's our duty to do that. And I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you so much. And that was so well said. It is our journey, and we are to pass this on. And there are a lot of really smart, talented women that can do that. So I hope that I can make it even more of an impact as I continue, my years here.
Yes, you will.
Thank you so much. This has been so enjoyable, and I hope this is helpful to other women and in their journey and their entrepreneur life.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.